Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. When it comes to fishing line, you can get pretty bogged down with all the different sizes, colors, and types. And obviously we've got fluorocarbon that we use, braided line that we use, and some guys like mono, but I actually prefer copolymer, but I consider those kind of one and the same. Both have quite a bit of stretch and actually float on the surface. Braided line floats also. Fluorocarbon has a tendency to sink, or it does sink because it's more dense. But if you follow my YouTube channel for any length of time, I like to keep things simple, kind of help guys major on the major and minor on the minors. So with that, I want to go into a system that I've kind of developed that works well for me as I travel all across the country and am faced with all kinds of watery environments when it comes to clear water, dirty water, heavy cover, or no cover at all. When it comes to braided line, I use 3 different sizes and 2 colors. But with that being said, here is a quick money-saving tip, time-saving tip, storage-saving tip when it comes to braided line for all your bass fishing needs. Number 1, when it comes to the heavy stuff, and what I mean by heavy stuff, big flipping rods. This one's a 7'11". When I'm flipping and pitching and punching, big weights like this, or even light weights, and I'm fishing braided line, I'm trying to get into heavy cover, whether it's grass or wood or what have you, I go with 50-pound test braided line. I go with 50-pound test braided line in green color. The green, I think, is really important because it blends into its surroundings, blends into the environment, and kind of stays camouflaged from the fish. And I also use 50-pound test when it comes to my frog fishing. Either frog fishing or buzzbait fishing, I'm using 50-pound test, and that is green actually. And I've been using the Strike King Tour Grade braided line, and this is like a 600-yard spool. And that's quite a bit of braided line, and I can carry this with me in my boat or in my camper or have it here in the garage. It doesn't take up a lot of room. But basically, when it comes to flipping, pitching, punching, buzzbaits, and frogs, I'm gonna use 50-pound test. Now back to that, the line color difference between this and this. Now these are both green, but this has been on my reel for quite some time. This reel's got a lot of play, and when it comes to braided line, they all will fade over time. Both being drugged through the water, whether it's lily pads or wood or whatever, reeled through the guides after how many thousand casts. And number 1, it's the line being beat on by the sun. It'll fade it over time. If you've watched some of my other videos, I did a video a while back about coloring my line. See, this is the actual color after it's faded. And then I'm using a green marker to bring it back to its original color, or close to its original color, because I feel like that helps to camouflage it from the fish's view. So that's your heavy flipping, pitching, punching, frogs, and buzzbaits, 50-pound test. A lot of guys will go 65, and some guys will even say 80. And I'm not saying don't buy those sizes, but I rarely have a break off. I rarely have any issues with 50. I feel like 50 casts exceptionally well, flips really well. It does everything I want it to do, and it performs at 100%. What I mean by that, gets me good solid hook sets, doesn't break off. I can't tell you the last time I broke off a fish on braided line. So 50-pound test for the heavy stuff. When it comes to top waters, I love to throw top waters on braid because again, it floats. And then if you bomb a long cast out there, whether it's a walking bait or a popper or what have you on your top water baits, your treble hook top water baits, you can set the hook on a fish way at the end of your cast and still keep him on. With mono, you're gonna have some stretch and sometimes you'll lose some of those fish. But I will also, because there's no stretch, I will also back down my rod a little bit. This is a medium heavy, but it's got a little bit more tip in this. Kind of makes up for the fact that braided line has no stretch. But 30-pound test, and I go with the green again on the top water baits with treble hooks, and then with my swim jigs. I like the 30-pound test with my swim jigs because a lot of times you're in and around cover, and when I'm not in and around cover, grass, weeds, different things like that, lily pads, I'll go ahead and put on a fluorocarbon leader. The fluorocarbon leader I feel like does a great job at camouflaging it from the fish's sight. And I put about 8 to 10 feet of fluorocarbon leader on there. Does a real great job so that if the line comes by the fish's face before the bait does, it doesn't get turned off by the fact that the braided line's a little bit more opaque. But I like the braided line on the swim jig predominantly because it really helps with hook sets and different things like that. Lastly, I go with a yellow line for all my finesse type techniques. And why I do that is because I feel like that yellow braided line, and I'm using that yellow 10-pound test, that Strike King Tour Grade Braid 10-pound test. Some guys you use 12 and 15. The 10 does all the things that I want it to do and more. Again, no break-offs or anything like that. But generally with my drop shots, my shaky heads, my wacky rigs, I'm using a fluorocarbon leader, maybe anywhere from 7 to 10-pound test gamma fluorocarbon as a leader on there, and I tie it with an FG knot right there. So this 10-pound test, I'll spool it on, and I won't have to really re-spool it for quite a while unless it gets super twisted. But even then, all you do is put on a new fluorocarbon leader and you're good to go. So you don't have to go through as much line whenever you're using braided line on your finesse equipment. When you're using straight fluorocarbon on your finesse equipment, a lot of times your line, you'll need to change it frequently. But again, also like the fact that there's no stretch on that, and when I set the hook with that fluorocarbon, a lot of times I get them really well and I hook them really well, and I'm able to have more control over them. Of course, I'm going to want to use a little bit softer rod because I'm using lighter action hooks. So, I mean, really that's it. When it comes to all my braided line fishing, you could use something like this is the 30 that I use for my top water and my swim jigs. You could use 40. You could use something 20, but I feel like 30 is a great mid-size range, and the 50 works great for all my heavy cover stuff. So 50, 30 in the green for those types of applications, and then 10-pound test with the finesse type applications in the yellow. I don't use braided line for my crankbaits. I have used it from time to time and use a long piece of copolymer. Sometimes I use copolymer as a leader in front of my braided line on my top waters as well. I have done that with crankbaits, but I've kind of transitioned away from that. When it comes to crankbaits, I'm generally using fluorocarbon, and all my bladed jigs I'm using fluorocarbon. That's just kind of what I've developed. That's kind of the system that I have. Spinnerbaits are fluorocarbon for me, no braided line. But that's pretty much my setup. If you guys would like it, maybe that's in the next video that I'll do. I'll just go through every rod and reel, which ones I use braid, which ones I use fluorocarbon, which ones I use braided with a fluorocarbon leader, and which ones I might even use copolymer. But that's it for now, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning into my YouTube channel. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. Drop a comment if you have any questions about anything that I've shared here, and obviously share it with a friend if you think they might get something out of this video. This channel grows if you guys share it on your social media and kind of pass the word around. But if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of those videos. I'm going to continue to try to kick out videos Wednesday nights and Saturday nights. I'm open to topics if you guys like to see me address something. One more thing, I've got the Bassmaster Elite Series coming to my Lake Fork. And if you guys would like to ask some questions about what I think it would take to win, what I think that some of the patterns are, different things like that, if you'd like to start some sort of dialogue regarding that event, go ahead and drop some comments, some questions and different things like that in the comment section, and then I'll go ahead and do a video that addresses some of those. That's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel, and until next time, good fishing.